Hello again, horror lovers. Today, we'll be traveling to Latin America to talk about one of the most horrible events that has ever taken place there in the last 10 years. That day, Mel was running late for work. It was the fourth time she had overslept, and the previous day she had been warned that she would be fired if this happened again. Thus, she was driving to work so fast she couldn't evade a truck going towards her. She woke up in the hospital 2 hours later, with her arm in a plaster and her head and thorax bandaged. And just when she was starting to realize where she was, a nurse went into the room, where 5 more hospitalized patients were resting. The nurse was bringing everyone their lunch, but when she gave Mel hers, their gazes clashed for a couple of seconds, enough for Mel to feel shivers go down her entire body. Then the young nurse ordered Mel to give her her phone, arguing that it was forbidden to have it there for security reasons. Mel wasn't completely convinced, but ended up doing what the nurse demanded. Time passed by and the visiting hours were finally on. However, Mel found it strange that all the patients were receiving visits from their loved ones, except her. And so Mel asked for permission to call her family and check if anything had happened to them, but the nurse denied her request. Nighttime came, and due to how worried she was, Mel couldn't sleep. It was 3 a.m. when suddenly, from the darkness, she saw someone enter the room and stand right before one of the beds. "Where are you taking me?" The response was, "We are going for a little ride." She instantly recognized the voice of that nurse who had scared her so much, and saw how that figure took the patient out of the room. The next day, one of the beds in the room was still missing. Mel didn't dare to ask about it, but she knew that what she saw the previous night was not normal. That day, nobody came to visit her either, and the staff then gave her the news that she would have to spend at least 48 extra hours hospitalized in there. She started to have a really bad feeling about the whole thing. But despite how worried Mel was, the next night she finally fell asleep due to lack of sleep. However, when she woke up, yet another one of the beds went missing, and she knew that that patient had not been released yet. Mel then decided to ask the nurse, since she was starting to get suspicious about that hospital and thought that maybe she was going crazy. He passed away last night because of a heart attack." Mel didn't believe her, and so she devised a plan. Mel waited until lunchtime, waiting for the staff to be at the cafeteria. She then made sure nobody was around, went to the storage unit of that floor, and got her phone back. Mel then called her mother to tell her about what happened, and she told Mel that the staff at the hospital were not allowing her to see Mel. And so Mel prepared herself. She would break out of the hospital that very night, but not before finding out what was really going on. She waited for the nurse to come back to take away another patient, and she carefully followed them. She then saw how the nurse sedated the patient before bringing him into an operating room. There was a surgeon waiting inside, and then both the surgeon and the nurse grabbed 2 enormous saws to dismember that man. They then extracted his heart, liver, and kidneys and placed them in a box. That's when the nurse turned around and saw horrified Mel looking behind the glass. The nurse simply smiled at Mel while covered in blood. "You are next." Mel rushed out of the hospital and called the police once she considered she was safe. This fateful event resulted in a huge public scandal, and both the nurse and the surgeon were arrested. The two declared that they weren't the only ones dedicated to such monstrous activities, that a huge organ trafficking network existed, and that it could never be stopped.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, and if you want to see more Draw My Life videos, subscribe to our channel. See you in the next episode!